Welcome to Issues of Contemporary Politics with Dr. Brovkin playlist and the War in Ukraine playlist. I'd like to talk today about the new escalation in the confrontation and in the war in Ukraine. Now, the whole world is talking about two things. It's talking about the new Russian missile Oreshnik and about a poor Ukraine that is being bombarded by Russian aggression, by Russian aggressors. In fact, I have just come back from Germany and I spoke to colleagues there. And what I was amazed to find out that this majority of the public there, at least it seems to be, believes that it is a Russian aggression and that poor Ukraine is suffering from this Putin aggressor. Now, let's put the record straight. Russia is not an aggressor. This conflict started in 2014 with the coup d'etat. This is, and the people who came to power proclaimed their aim to join NATO. And they started doing all kinds of other things about persecution of Russian Orthodox Church and banning the Russian language, etc., etc. But the point is that for 8 years, they have been shooting at the city of Donetsk, the provinces of Donbass, Lugansk, and Donetsk, who refused to accept the coup d'etat, who refused to accept the new government, a pro-Western government in Ukraine. So there was no aggression, there was a lot of patience, and there were Minsk Accords, and there was trying to establish autonomy, and then they were duped and they were deceived, and then they were using the time to build up huge fortifications, and then it was the Ukrainian side, with the encouragement of Americans, in American provided uniforms, that started shooting at Donbass in January 2022. And it is to that Putin responded. When you shoot and shoot and shoot and there's no response, then one day you shoot back. And when they did, it was pronounced to the whole world that Russia is an aggressor. This is a total substitution of the origin of this conflict. Now, this has been going on ever since. They were saying that it was a poor Ukraine is the victim of Russian aggression, and the latest episode is exactly the same type. The whole world is saying, well, I mean, in Western media, that Russia is bombarding, Russia is destroying electricity, so in poor Ukraine, which they forget to mention. This is in response to the permission of the United States to provide ATACM's missiles that would launch and strike targets deep into Russian territory. Zelensky was trying to get this permission for months, and the arguments were going on in Western media. You can check it yourself. All through the summer, the argument was it would enable Ukraine to have a better position. It would show Ukraine in the position of strength. It would force Putin to negotiate. That was still is the official position of Western powers. And last week, when I did a video on the crisis with the use of ATACM's missiles against Russian targets in Russia proper, the answer was, how will Putin respond? Well, today we know how Putin responded. It was a very clever move. On the one hand, he couldn't not respond. He had to respond. On the other hand, everybody was afraid that he would do so much that provoke a bigger war. So he found an exceptionally wise solution. He hit back with the missiles that are overwhelming, and at the same time, they're not nuclear, and they show the strength of what Russia can do without provoking an overall war. So the priority here is to understand that first there was ATACM's missiles. All 6 of them were shot down by the Russian air defenses. One of them managed to do some damage in the targets that were chosen. In response to that, Putin used Oreshnik. Now, what is it exactly? It is simply a super speedy, fast weapon that cannot be stopped. That's what it's all about. It cannot be stopped, as Putin has explained in his uh, interview in Kazakhstan. It is 10 times higher than the speed of sound, and therefore it can hit any target anywhere, anytime, and it cannot be stopped. Therefore, ATACM's missiles is not the kind of missile that can do any serious damage to Russia. It's 2 million apiece. To make any serious damage, 6 were shot and 6 were intercepted. It would have to be like 100 at the same time so that they would break through and do some damage in Russia. First of all, the US doesn't have 100, and even if it does, it needs to keep it for itself. There's no way they can deliver so many missiles to Ukraine, even if they wanted to. But even if they did, suppose they miraculously found a huge number of ATACMS missiles, the response would be several times higher. And this is what this latest bombardment of Ukraine is all about. It is to show to Zelensky and to its Western sponsors that Russia has something very powerful to respond with. And if need be, as Putin explained, it could be, the production of it could be expanded several times higher. So where we are now, we're now in a situation that the ball is in the court of the West, and specifically Biden. Is he going to escalate more? Some indications are that he wants to. He's talking about providing additional funding to Ukraine and additional everything so that it can continue to fight. The big question, of course, is what Trump will do, and we will leave that question open because it's not clear. But some of the information coming from the media is that his new advisors on Ukraine also want to try to speak to Russia from the position of strength. And here is what I'm telling you, my dear subscribers. It will not work. To talk to Russia from the position of strength will not work, simply because Russia has now a very well-trained army with lots of experience. It has expanded its army to 800,000 fighting men and more than 1.5 million altogether in the service. But most importantly, it has now mass production of tanks, artillery, missiles, shells, and now this very impressive weapon that can hit any target anywhere before it is even discovered. Now, what is the West doing? The West Europeans are certainly very worried, and they talk about Russian aggression. What else can they come up with? And they are talking about sending expeditionary force in Ukraine. Well, go ahead, Mr. Macron, try it. The first thing that's going to happen is a revolution in France, because as far as I can see, the French public opinion is much more preoccupied with the trouble of the farmers in France. And there's no enthusiasm whatsoever, zero, to send any troops to fight Russia. But even if they did, Russia would do its utmost to destroy any expeditionary force that the British and the French and the Poles may come up with. It will not change the course of the war. It would make it more painful for the West to accept its defeat. Now, Putin, of course, did a very interesting comment in regard to Trump, which means that he repeated that Russia is open to negotiation. He repeated that conditions are still the same, which is 4 provinces plus neutrality for Ukraine, plus no NATO expansion. So this is a kind of olive branch that Putin is giving to Trump, saying that he's clever, that he's experienced, that he's been assassinated. He says all the right things to please Trump. But at the same time, he makes it very clear, we do have these weapons, and if need be, we will use them, and they're not nuclear, and we have other things that we can use in case you prefer to escalate. My own impression is that Trump may not want to escalate because of his domestic agenda. But, as I also said many times before, he is not in control. the deep state is in control, and whether he's going to be able to pursue his own policy is not clear at all. So we're now at this kind of a fork in the road. There is a possibility that we shall survive these 2 months before Trump comes in, and then some compromise may be possible. We may also find a situation that there will be a big war, and in the catastrophic scenario, a nuclear war, and then that would be it. That would be the end of everything for everybody. So this is where we are. Thank you very much. Write your comments. I'm always very pleased with those. And I will see you in a few days next time. Thank you.